Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, and this week my co-host is Jordan Samuel, and our guest is Denise Thomas. Denise is one of the most accomplished and well-known coaches within the CrossFit space. She is part of CrossFit seminar staff, as well as being one of the rare L4 coaches out there. There's only a handful of L4 coaches, being that you have to get grandfathered into it, not something you can achieve as an aspiring coach these days. We talk a little bit about that status, as well as her journey to being one of the top coaches around. She was actually one of my L1 coaches when I took my L1 over a decade ago. She's been around for a long time. We talk about how she got into the CrossFit space as a coach back in New York City back in the day, learning what CrossFit was from one of the OGs within the space. We talk a little bit about what she deems to be important factors into becoming a better coach, what goes into it, how she actually can help tackle being a resource for all of those aspiring coaches out there. I found this conversation to be really enlightening as a coach myself, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. Denise Thomas is a great resource for anyone who wants to become a better coach. Enjoy. Well, welcome, Denise. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with myself and Jordan today. How are things going?
Things are great. Thanks for having me. I'm a big fan, so I'm excited to get chatting with you guys.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And, you were just mentioning off the air, the last time we actually saw each other was probably training grounds, Reebok training grounds, which was, was the last one in 2016 or 2017? Do you remember what year that was?
It was 17.
17?
Was it?
Well, it definitely wasn't 16. It was either 17 or maybe 18.
Oh, it was definitely 17 then.
Okay.
Yeah. Many moons ago, we had some great times out there. But I actually was talking to Jordan, first time I met you, I think you were actually one of my L1 instructors, which is about a decade ago. And I remember fondly my experience back in Jersey with you and Austin and the rest of the crew, teaching us the ins and outs of what was then new to us with CrossFit. And I would love for the rest of our listeners to get a little bit of a handle on how you got into all of this. And we can talk about where you are as a coach right now, but would you mind giving a little bit of a background on yourself as an athlete and how you got into the CrossFit world?
Yeah, I was a soccer player my whole life. I mean, if you were to ask anyone back in England, who's Denise Thomas, they'd be like, oh, she's that football player. That's all I did from 6 till 28. And I played internationally, and I played some semi-pro soccer over here in the US. And it was that actually brought me to the US and started my journey becoming an American. Now I'm a proud American. 2019.
Before we move on from there, what's your team? Who's your football
my team
club?
Is Manchester United.
Yeah.
Right. And everyone's always like, yeah, but it was
the Yankees
actually,
of the soccer world, right?
Yeah, I have a funny story about that, but I won't bore you with it now. But yeah, United was my team. Loved that. Soccer was everything. Came to the US, had a scholarship, went to Connecticut, did 4 years there, and then moved to New York City and did my graduate degree there as an assistant soccer coach in New York City. And it's there where I found CrossFit, because I was working as a sports performance specialist, fancy name. I was just a coach really in a gym there. And there was a guy in there, and he was big and muscly and doing these weird pull-ups, kipping pull-ups, but he had bandages on his hands, and I couldn't understand why he was doing pull-ups, but he was clearly wounded. So I was always interested in what he was doing. So this one day I'm like, I'm going to go talk to this guy. What's up with him? I'm like, clearly there's stuff going on. Like, why would you be hanging from a pull-up bar? And he's like, oh, it's this thing called CrossFit. And this was in 2008. I'm like, have you heard of it? And I'm like, no, what is it? And he pulls out his flip cam. This is how old it was, like a tiny little square of a screen. And it was the 2008 CrossFit Games. And he just returned from the games, and he was doing like deadlifts and burpees on some dusty ranch in California. And I was like, oh, he's like, you want to try it? And I'm like, sure. And of course, like all of us, I did it all, played soccer, ran marathons, done all the boot camps, you name it. So he put me through a scaled version of Fight Gone Bad. And we didn't have all the equipment, so we had to modify some things. And that was really what started my CrossFit journey. And that individual who has actually been integral in every CrossFit decision I've ever made and career path I've got on. He's been involved, and that was Dave Lipson. So that was all those years ago. And
amazing.
So it's funny story, but.
So that was not in a CrossFit gym. That was just in a regular Globo gym where he was doing his thing after coming back from the games, and you found him just serendipitously.
Yeah, he was an independent contractor, so he would bring clients into the facility that I was employed at, and he would always do all this cool stuff. And he stood out amongst everybody, all the other trainers. Like he was strong, but he was fit, and he was doing things I'd never seen before. So I was intrigued, and that started my journey.
So
I love it.
How long after that experience, Denise, did it take for you to go after your level 1?
So that was in the summer of 2008. 2009. I'm sorry. I found CrossFit in 2008. Yes, the end of 2008. And then in 2009, it was January or February, and I decided to sign up for a competition, a CrossFit competition. Like, only been doing CrossFit maybe 5 months. It ended up being the 2009 regionals in Virginia Beach. So it was wildly humbling. I couldn't do anything. I finished second to last. I woke up on the morning of day 2 feeling like somebody had snuck into my room and beat me with a stick. I was so sore, but it changed my life. So I did the competition, and then I went back and I said, Dave, we should do this CrossFit Level 1 thing. So Dave and I did our CrossFit Level 1 in the summer of 2009, right before the CrossFit Games. So it was pretty quick after, I'd say. And then,
do you remember who the Flow Masters were for your L1?
I do. It was, the Flow Master was Todd Widman, and the trainers were Chuck Carswell, John Gilson, blast from the past, Dennis Marshall, CrossFit Garden City, and Rob Miller, Big Rob Miller, CrossFit Delaware Valley.
Amazing.
And then also Miranda was there, Miranda Oldroyd. Now Miranda Alvarez, yep. And there was somebody else. No, I think they were trainers, yeah. Yep. All the superstars,
Yeah, Dave and I were talking right before you got on about who was at our level 1s, and I think, if I remember correctly, I think you were interning at my level 1. I think you were doing all the demo movements and stuff, and I think so. I had Austin, and Russell Berger was my flow master, and then Hobart was there. And maybe EC, but I'm pretty sure you were there, but not fully on staff yet. Like, you were interning or something, but maybe my memory's bad.
Where was it?
It's at Reebok.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, if it was at Reebok, I was probably on staff, but they probably didn't give me any roles yet. They're probably like, you're not good enough yet. You just get on that demo box and show the thing.
Are you now a flow master?
Yeah, I became a flow master in 2013.
And what does that mean for our listeners who may not know?
A flow master is just they generally dictate the flow, so it's like a cruise ship director, and it's just a course supervisor who manages the timeline and the schedule, and does briefs people on what's happening next, takes care of logistics. Yeah, course supervisor is probably the best way to describe it.
From what I remember with the L1, from when I took it years ago, it's very structured, and the intention being that every course you go to will have the same information disseminated in the same way. I'm curious, from your perspective, after having done it so many years ago and then been a flow master for almost a decade, has it changed quite a bit over the years? I mean, I think there was a lot of like, this is the way that it is, we're going to teach you these particular methods. Have you noticed a lot of change and deviation from what you initially worked on a decade ago to what it is today?
Not really. The methodology's never changed, and I don't know if it ever will. So there's been some tweaks to the nutrition lecture and the information that we put out, because we've evolved in that industry, and we recognize that there are other protocols that are very beneficial, and so we speak to that a little bit. But in terms of the CrossFit fitness, the technique lecture, they've all stayed pretty much the same. The programming lecture changed a little bit from just evaluating 5 days of CrossFit programming. And we decided that we would introduce how to write a lesson plan and what that means. And we had a scaling piece that we fleshed out a little bit more. But the movements, the 9 foundational movements are the same. There might have been a couple of tweaks, maybe added some more frequently asked questions in there as we've evolved. But the 5 unchanging elements are the same. The thing, I think where it's changed the most has been in the station rotations, as you probably remember them. Mm-hmm. I don't know which year you were in, but there used to be 4 stations where you would spend 15 minutes on double unders and 15 minutes on rowing and 15 minutes on pull up and snatch. So those have been tweaked a little bit over the years, but not so different that it's like a huge change.
Mm-hmm. And what has changed is there's much more nuance in terms of going from an L1, where essentially you got your L1, you can open up an affiliate, you can be a coach. But there's a lot of these continuing education programs along with it now. You have your L2 all the way up to L4. Now, you're one of the few L4s. Do you know how many L4 coaches there are right now worldwide that actually have gone through the entire process?
I want to say there's less than 50. I mean, I have the numbers somewhere. Yeah, and how you are actually a level 4 is because currently we don't have the level 4 offering. You get grandfathered in from the old level 2, which used to be an assessment. So you would show up on day 1, you would practice how to run the circles that you see at the level 1. So you would coach 3 of the 9 foundational movements. And then on day 2 is your assessment. You show up, there's 3 evaluators. They pick the movement that you're going to teach. And then they have a criteria where they just say whether you met the standards or not. So if you did that, and I believe the last level 2 ever, I think I took it was in November 2009. Anyone that took their level 2 prior to that and had it, and then took the CrossFit, the level 3, the certified trainer, they become a level 4. So that's how you got it. You got in. The other big thing though, the change, and I think actually we'd be doing it a disservice if we didn't talk about this, because it speaks to the CEUs. The testing, we didn't used to have a test in the level 1. Mm-hmm. So you just show up and you would do the course and you would be on your merry way and you'd be called a level 1 certified trainer, but then we accredited the course. So ANSI came in and now we're a certificate course. So you would come in, you would take the test on site, you would get the results on site, which was devastating if you failed after having 2 marvelous days. And then they hand you a manila folder and it said, you failed. That was awful. So then they moved it to you get the results after the course. You still take the test on site, but that professionalized the course a lot more as well. It gave a little more gravity to what we were doing. And but nothing else really changed beyond that.
So you had said that in order to become a level 4, you had to have taken the old level 2 before it went away in 2009 or 10 or whenever that was. Does that mean that there is not currently a path to make it to a level 4 at this point if you hadn't taken that old level 2, or is there some avenue for people to get on that trajectory?
Yeah, currently we do not have the level 4 active, which is, don't quote me on this because it could change, but it's looking something like an on-site assessment, running a class or 2 classes, and you get evaluated on site. Right before COVID, we were very close to launching that. And then COVID just put a massive old wrench in the works and said, not today. Mm-hmm. So we had to back push it a little bit. But hopefully that will, come out later down the pipeline so people can start to earn that credential.
Now, one of the things that has developed here is something that I'd love to know a little bit more about is the coach development program. And I'm curious what the program is and how it kind of fits in line with the L1 through L3 as it is right now, and how you see it as kind of a continuation or a supplement to what's already existing.
Yeah, the coach development program was established in 2015, maybe early 2016, by myself and Austin Malleolo, who I worked with at Reebok CrossFit One. And it started as Reebok CrossFit One coach development program as a result of us teaching level 2s and being always asked these questions of where can we go to get more feedback, where, you know, this stuff is great and it's needed, but can we get assessed running real classes, and what does that look like? So we that's where it came from. We wanted to give back to the community. We wanted to help people develop their skills, but in real time. So you're coaching a class, we're off to the side, we're evaluating your class. Depending on how it looked, we might stop the class altogether and say, hold a second, hey Dave, you just walked past X person, let's go back right now and just watch this. All right guys, keep going. It could be something like that. It could be a little bit more hands off, but they were getting feedback in the moment versus at the end of the class being emailed feedback or, you know, being given a huge debrief. Mm-hmm. And so the way it fits into the level 1, level 2, level 3, you can be a part of the coach development program without a level 1 or with a level 4. And whatever you're coming to the table with is what you will get your customized experience on. So we had an individual came from Malta, fantastic guy, his name was Sean. He had just taken his level 1, I believe. He might have been a couple of months in, so really green, didn't really have any systems in place for how to teach or run a class, just kind of was doing what he knew. So that was great because we got an opportunity to grab him while it was early and he was raw, and we could give him some protocols to start his journey. On that same coach development program, we also had a CrossFit level 3 or maybe level 4 instructor, Wes Pyatt, owns a gym over on the West Coast. Fantastic human, went to the games, did it all, works for CrossFit seminar staff. And his experience was very different to Sean's because he's doing the thing, he knows how to coach, he's leading, you know, running level 1s. But what he came to us for was a better ways to give feedback to his coaches. So Wes would still run a class, still get feedback on best practices, but his journey looked more like, all right, you're going to evaluate Sean's class, who's new. We're going to talk about what you saw. I'm going to share with you what I saw. We're going to decide how we can best deliver this to Sean. And then I'm going to sit in the meeting while you give him feedback. And then after that, I'm going to give you feedback on how you gave him feedback. Mm-hmm. And then we talked about best practices for running coach development drills in your gym. And then in the middle is a blend of both. So it doesn't really matter where you are in your credential journey. If you come to the program, you'll have that customized experience.
That's
so
interesting.
Who's running that? Is it still you and Austin running that, or has it been handed off to larger staff at CrossFit?
Well, we CrossFit took it for a little while, but then there was a period where all the SMEs were given back to their original owners. So myself and Austin got it back. We actually brought James Hobart on board, but it was right before the pandemic. So we didn't really get to do many things. And then after COVID went away a little bit, James got a job with CAP for CrossFit. So he's running the CrossFit affiliate programming. And then Austin got a job actually with the affiliates on the gym side. So they weren't able to put as much into it anymore. So I took full ownership of it. And so I'm running it right now with a team of trainers that are deployed all over the world who run those out of their gyms, or they visit other people's gyms that would like to host.
You know, I will say that a handful of years back, I was coaching at CrossFit One Nation, and, you know, Austin was an owner there, and you were pretty integral, and a lot of the people on staff at Reebok gym were integral in helping us develop us as coaches. And I've said this straight to Austin's face, and I've said it to a few other people, but I've never worked for somebody before that was more interested in seeing me develop as a coach and grow than I did when I was working for Austin, and to some extent for you, which kind of, I think, speaks to the sort of passion that you're probably putting into this coaches development program. And I remember a specific instance where I was getting ready to coach. I had my lesson plan all done up because you guys were huge on building lesson plans with timelines and all sorts of things. So I'd done that whole thing. Class was starting in 2 minutes or whatever. And I was confident, ready to go. And I look out the garage door and I see you walking in from the parking lot. And I immediately got nervous. I was like, holy crap. And my whole lesson plan went right out the window, not because it wasn't good, but because I started second guessing myself. And we had a long talk afterwards, and you went through some various things with me, and it was really valuable stuff. And I always laugh about that because it makes me, it makes me laugh when I think about it. But there was so much value in working for you in Austin in that environment. So I imagine that the coaches development program is very much in line with the experience that I had, but maybe even more so.
Yeah, it's not. I don't really know how to phrase it without it sounding like this aggressive course, but it really is intensive. And if you're coming to this course, you're paying, a decent amount of money. You're giving up time from your family, your job, your kids, whatever is going on in your life. You're telling us that you're invested, and we're not going to waste your time. So yes, we will tell you the things you're good at. We absolutely want to empower you to keep doing those things. But the goal is to unmask these weaknesses that your gym provides comfort in. So things like logistics and timelines and prepping and different populations and you always get the, oh, I know that's Jordan. He's got this, and I'm like, you don't know what Jordan did last night. Now, if you're not used to these protocols and these procedures, and you go into another gym or you're asked to coach another class, you won't be the coach that you can be because you don't have a system. So a lot of the times we can just rely on what we think is happening. So our goal is to help this journey where you can go to any gym in the entire world, different languages, native language, and you can put on a kick-ass class. So in order for that to happen, you have to have these checklists. And it's, people don't like to be pigeonholed, but we don't call it that. We call it being disciplined, having structure so that you can pivot and that you are able to actually be fun and all the things that you're known for. So it's not an easy course. There's tiers. We have a 1 day course. We don't always get tiers in the 1 day course, but 3 days always, 5 days definitely. And we get real with each other. It's
I thought you were saying tiers as in there are T-I-E-R-S. It's like, no, T-A-R-S. There are people crying because this is challenging.
Crying because it's challenging, but honestly, what's usually holding people back is things that have nothing to do with coaching or fitness. There's other things going on in our lives, and we're not therapists or anything like that, but we have to unearth these insecurities or these barriers so that we can really get down to it, or else there's no amount of teaching, seeing, correcting, group management, presence and attitude and demonstration drills that are going to help you. So let's lay it out. Who are you? Why are you here? What's holding you back? And we might not know that today, but we're going to dig deep. And once we break through, then these drills are going to help you. Mm-hmm. So it's very intimate. We cap it at 4 people a program. So we'll run them even if it's a one-on-one, and we get real cozy. We do group feedback. So if we're all in a CDP together, I'm going to be giving you feedback, Dave, in front of Jordan. And Jordan, you're going to get feedback in front of Dave, and we just have to be open books. Mm-hmm. It's very humbling.
I have 2 follow-up questions, Dave, if you don't mind, real quick. The first one is, has Austin ever cried at one of these?
No, he makes the people cry.
Does he cry ever? I don't think he cries.
I've seen him cry. Okay. I seen him cry one time. I'm not going to talk about why that was, but yeah, just one time.
So my second question is that obviously you have done so much over the years to develop yourself as a coach, not just of athletes, but of other coaches. And I'm curious to know, what is it that you do in order to continually bring your game up? How do you develop yourself, or where do you go and look to find these things to improve?
I surround myself with people that I think I can learn from. And that doesn't always mean people that have more experience than me. In fact, I've learned a lot from people that have less experience than me because they're able to say things a lot simpler than I probably would articulate. But I've been lucky enough to be part of CrossFit seminar staff now since 2010. And that environment is constant feedback loop. So it's I've been lucky there. But then also working at Reebok CrossFit One, we were lucky in the sense that we had 5 full-time coaches and we were all on site all the time. But with that also comes that added pressure of always being watched. So, I mean, there was not a day that went by that Austin didn't make some comment about a class that I'd screwed up, or, you know, I could have done better. And same with me to him. And our coaches, again, there was this two-way street. So every day you had to be on, because you were constantly having someone watch you for a good template, or you were being evaluated. And then I just, even in my soccer days, I would pick opportunities where things weren't guaranteed. You know, hey, join this team and you'll start guaranteed, or join this team and you're not going to be guaranteed to start. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be the player that just gets handed this starting jersey. And that was hard as a youngster to make that call, but I'm really glad I did, because it pushed me to always seek out those opportunities, seek out those hard conversations. And now I find myself as a seminar staff manager on a team of Chuck Carswell and Todd Widman, Joe Alexander, Nadia Chatilas, and Ashley Tottens, who are constantly pushing themselves. Like Todd will say, stop telling me the things I'm doing well. How can I be better? And it's genuine. It's not just I want to appear to be a good leader. Like, he genuinely wants to tell me how he can be a better leader. And so I took a lot from that. So I think environment is everything. It's seeking out those environments, challenges, and people that are going to push you out of your comfort zone.
I love that. And I was going to ask a question. I think it's just kind of a continuation on that. And I'm sure you deal with tons of different individuals, right? Everyone comes in with a variety of different strengths and weaknesses with regards to how they coach. You know, some is a personality thing, maybe it's a technical thing, maybe they just interact, interpersonal skills are at a real high. Everybody's different. But from your perspective, are there some like 2 or 3 things, maybe more, maybe less, maybe there's one that you really look at as like, you have to have this as a coach? Or you say, you know what, these are the 3 things that every coach needs to have in their tool belt to really be able to get to that next level. Is there anything in there that you always kind of look for when you're evaluating a coach?
Oh, it's a really good question. And I'm sure I have many answers, but what just springs to mind is empathy. You have to be able to put yourself in whoever you're coaching's shoes in some capacity. Again, because if you only ever have one perspective as an athlete or a coach, you're not going to be able to reach as many people. So empathy is huge. And it's really hard to have empathy when you lack experience. And it's usually you develop empathy as a result of experience. I think you have to be humble, because if you are trying to progress as a coach and help others, you have to be vulnerable and open to feedback. You have to. And here's the thing about feedback too, is you don't have to like it. I mean, I don't like getting feedback because it hurts. You know, it's painful sometimes, whether it's feedback from a workout. I mean, I love the results I get from workout, but I'm not one of those people who's like, can't wait to work out. I'm like, oh, man, this is going to suck. It's like the end of a lecture or a seminar, and you walk behind, you know, into the office and the flow master's there and they're like, are you ready for your feedback? And I'm like, no, I'm not. You're about to tell me how I can be better. It's going to hurt, but I love the result and I love how the steps it takes me then to get better. So you have to be humble. You've got to want to work hard. You know, you really do have to grind, and things can't be handed to you on a platter. We're lucky now where we have people like you guys, like Power Monkey Camp, and we have seminars and we have all these online courses. But I think I've missed the days where you had to really grind and go to the library and like read a book and then go practice. And I think that it's lost on a lot of us, that the value of that. So I think, I mean, if I was just going to go for 3, you've got to be empathetic, you've got to be hardworking, smart working too, but hardworking, and you have to be ready to accept feedback, even though it hurts.
I think those are excellent. And I think you're spot on with a lot of those. And I look at those things the same way. Now, the last one in there is a little bit important to me, just with regards to the everyday coach out there that loves to grind, right? And loves to get in the gym and sleep on their floor, and, you know, be in the gym every day and be a part of their actual gym. Is the big struggle there is making it sustainable, in the sense of I'm an owner and a coach, and this has become not only something that I love doing now, but something that's sustainable for the rest of my life. What do you see as a big barrier for someone that likes to grind as being someone that can actually turn it into sustainable business? And maybe this is a part of the conversation that you guys tackle with the development program, but is there any consideration to how to become a better businessman, how to become a better person who deals with the things outside of the interaction with the actual person, the client, to make their business actually successful?
Yeah, well, I'll start by saying this is not my area of expertise. I'm not, I'm a business owner for the coach development program, but in terms of gyms, I've managed a gym, I've been head coaches, but I've never ran one. That being said, I've talked to a lot of people, so I can give some kind of an answer. Chase excellence, always chase excellence. Now, in order to chase excellence, you have to ask the right questions and be around the right people. How do you do that? Get a mentor. I mean, if I was going to open a gym, I would not be the one that would be the expert in the end-to-end business operations. So I would need to outsource or find somebody that knows how to put structures into place for payroll, paying bills, gym equipment, all these things. I would get a mentor, some best hour of their day or some kind of organization that can offer you that. And I would not be in a rush to open the doors. That's all got to be in place before you open the doors. Then I think you can't be everything. And in the beginning you are, as an affiliate owner. And I actually love this about the affiliate owner life is you are the head coach, you are the janitor, you are the therapist, you are the admin, you are the scheduler, you're all these things. But I think there's value in investing in bringing people in to do those roles. And even though you're putting out a little bit more in the beginning, in the long term, you're setting up systems and protocols that are going to be able to run themselves after a given time. And I find the best and the most successful gyms take the time to do that, whether they get burned by not doing it or whether they do it from the get-go. I think a lot of us, because we're hard workers, think, no, I'm going to clean the gym. And I agree, we should clean the gym. But is that where your time's best spent, spending 4 hours at the end of the night wiping the floors? Or could you be putting 4 hours thinking about how to grow the business and paying somebody to come in and clean the gym in the beginning? So your time is better spent elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So I think trainers always get caught into this habit or this pattern of coaching all the classes. And it's just, I love coaching. I mean, I coach till the cows come home. But you put me on 5 classes back to back, the quality drops, my energy drops, and I'll bring it for those 5 hours. But then I go home and I'm like an empty vessel for my family.
Right.
And it takes me longer to recharge. And no one's getting better doing that. So I think you have to invest in others, honestly. And that's why it's important that you get a good business plan before you start.
Yeah, I think that's totally spot on with what I've noticed too, as a small business owner trying to take on so many roles and finally coming to that conclusion that we need to bring on people who are well suited for all those areas where you're not great. I feel like I'm a good technical coach, but I don't manage books well, and I need somebody to do the media side. And you can be great at grinding, but you're going to grind yourself into a pulp if you don't really understand how to delegate well too. So I think that's an important piece, not just from a coaching side, I think the perspective that you're taking, but from a business owner perspective too.
Yeah, I just to add on to that too, Dave, I think when I say chase excellence, I really mean that. And I hope the listeners understand what I mean by that. And it's any business you run, you want to have quality. And if things grow too fast, that quality will fall. And that's why long-term growth is important and not short-term growth. So a practical example could be having 10 classes a day. Do you have the manpower and the resources and the energy and the time and the finances to put on 10 classes a day? The classes have 2 people showing up, but they really love that time. A bad business move would be to keep that class versus cutting that class. Let's cut classes in half. Let's fill the classes. Let's have one coach that we can bring on as full-time and we're going to tackle it. And so there's ways to do it. And I think less is more. But if you open a gym and you expect to make a lot of money straight away, I guess it's like any business. I think that's gonna bite you in the butt. So quality always seems to be the best way, and taking your time with things.
Yeah. And going back a little bit to the structuring of workouts and something that Jordan brought up earlier, Jordan having been someone that maybe learned from you and Austin early on in his coaching. Now, Jordan, I actually thought you were going to bring up the story when you hit your face on the bar right before your class started and you're bleeding everywhere, but you still taught the class.
I taught the whole class.
From Austin, Denise. Smash his face on the bar, bleeding
Actually,
everywhere.
it was Austin in the corner saying, "You're not allowed to leave." No, I'm just kidding. But like, it literally happened in the first 7 minutes of class, and I coached the whole thing, and then I went to the emergency room and got stitches in my face.
As you should.
I mean, I never got a pay raise for that, so I don't know. But
sorry to take a tangent there, but I thought that was, that's another thing you learned. That's some grit right there. That's commitment to the members, busting your face open and staying there. But one of the things that he brought up is how much effort and how much emphasis you put on creating training plans. And I wanted to touch on your DT lesson plans, because I think this is something you've put a lot of time and effort into. And why do you find this to be important? What is DT lesson plans, and how is this something kind of dovetails into the other stuff that you're doing?
I know you guys had asked me about if there's things I wanted to talk about, and this was one of them, and this is why. Because right now we have a lot, lesson plans are everywhere now. I think a lot of coaches, when you say lesson plan, they're like, yeah, I do a lesson plan. But that wasn't the case back in like 2015 and 2016. And actually, because some of the coaches at the gym would laugh at me when I was writing lesson plans, and they'd be like, "You got your lesson plan?" And now some of those people are making careers off writing lesson plans. So it's right. Funny when I think about it. But it started really because I wanted to bring purpose and intention to what I was doing. Because as your knowledge grows, when you only have an hour with these people, you can overtalk and you can put prioritization on things that shouldn't have priority. And so I thought, just by bringing a bit more intention to what I was doing in that hour, I would get excited about it too, because it's something that I'd researched. And then they would get excited because they were learning new things. And so I was doing them for a while. And then I was listening to Tim Ferriss, and he was talking about how he came up with Tribe of Mentors and Tools for Titans. And his why was because he wanted to go to one place where all the experts were, and he could just click on something and he would get information on that thing. So his whole thing is, I'm going to interview the best people, and they're going to tell us why they're so great and why we should do this thing. And he called it scratching his own itch. And he's like, if I want this, then maybe other people want it too. And if it's only me, then great. But at least I have this resource now where I can go and I can learn more all in one place. So I got thinking about lesson plans, and I'm like, man, if I'm thinking this way, there has to be other people out there that are thinking this way. And maybe I'll just put the lesson plans up on an Instagram account of the classes that I'm teaching. And that's how it started. I would write my lesson plan and post it and just put a little write up on why I did what I did. And it quickly grew, not to monumental fellowships or anything, but it quickly grew to where people were like, oh, this is super valuable. And I didn't care. It's not a business. It's just a place people can go and pull up a lesson plan and read about it and maybe bring a different perspective to what they're doing each day in their classes. And I went on a little bit of a hiatus from it for a while, and people were asking me, can you bring it back? And it's easy to forget that people still see value in it, even if you think people have had their fill with something. So that was the reason it started. And I hope people still see value in it.
Dave,
yeah, go ahead.
One of the things that you might really like, if you haven't looked it up yet, is because I know you, Dave, is Denise's penmanship is incredible. And even just from like, if you just look at it and you're not really digging in and getting the substantial value out of it by reading everything, it's just pleasant to look at. Like it just looks really nice.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, and you're right. And Denise, Jordan's referring to, I'm like fascinated by like calligraphy and just like penmanship and things like that. And what I notice on your lesson plans are the thing that kind of dominates is the timeline. And you use kind of just a standard line where you have beginning of class at 0 minute all the way up to that 60-minute mark, and you have it all kind of spread out. Now, is that you build everything around that and say, okay, this is what I anticipate the accessory work taking and the WOD taking and the cool down taking, and you build everything off of that as kind of your centerpiece?
Yeah, I essentially do a timeline from 0 to 60. And then I start to plan the things that never change. So we're always going to have an intro. So I usually budget a certain amount of time for that, 3 to 5 minutes. If you don't use it, great. And I always put in a 10-minute cool down at the end. And then that tells me I have 45 real usable minutes of the hour. Then I figure out how long it takes for the workout to be done. So if it's an AMRAP or something that's time priority, it's easy because I know. But if it's something I have to figure out with math, then I just have a range. And I always add a couple of more minutes on just for some stragglers. But let's say it's a 15-minute workout and I've gone backwards, right? I'm at 3 to 5, and then here I'm at 50. I work back and I'm like, okay, the latest time this workout can start is the 35th minute. Has to start 35 minutes in for me to have enough time at the end to do the thing. And then I take off a couple of minutes for the break, call it 5 minutes for math's sake. So now I've got from, let's say, 5 to 30, which is 25 minutes of actual usable warm-up time. And this tells you a lot because depending on what the workout is, not all things are created equal when you're planning a specific warm-up. Like, I'm not going to give the same attention to an ab mat sit-up as I am to a snatch, as an obvious example. So you look at the workout, let's say it's a heavy snatch, like 185, 125, and it's got 5 reps and maybe a 400-meter run and some rowing. That's a horrible workout, but that's what it is. I'm definitely going to touch on the run and the row, but I'm going to spend the most time working on the snatch, empty barbell warm-up drills, time for loading. And then once the load is on the bar, and this is sometimes a mistake we see, the athletes don't get a chance to actually get hot with that bar. So a warm-up, when you're fresh and you get on that bar, it looks a lot different than if you do like a little mini round and you get them hot. So they've got to practice that too. And that's a significant amount of time. So I work my way back. How much time do I need for this? And I really want 15 minutes for this, but I don't have enough time because of X, Y, and Z. So you're playing this game. You're constantly negotiating with yourself until eventually you're like, okay, 25 minutes. I'm going to spend 15 minutes on the snatch. That's the primary focus of the day, the snatch. That gives me 10 minutes to hit the row, hit the run, if I want to do something specific there. And then I might have 2 or 3 minutes for a quick general warm-up, just warming up macro muscles, hips, shoulders, joints, and then quads and hamstrings. And I'm like, I only have this amount of time for general warm-up. But then if it was a long workout, I only have this much time for the warm-up. So that's my thought process and how I structure it.
Do you save all of your lesson plans, Denise? I'm curious.
I've got a pretty hefty folder with a bunch of them. Yeah,
Do you ever go back
I'm a nerd.
Do you ever go back and review any and like say, you know what, this wasn't right. If something else similar like this comes up, this is a lesson that I learned that I'm going to change going forward?
Yeah, the big lessons are not typically not the content, the specific warm-up itself. It's usually that I tried to do too much and I didn't consider like questions or capacities, or I didn't practice the thing that I wanted to do. So the row, right? Let's say we're doing some rowing drills and I want them to pull and go and stop here. And then I'm going to say go. And when they do another row, they come back and they stop here. If I don't practice my commands, like go, pause, stop, sometimes I get up there and I get twisted in my words and the commands are not clear, or I'm like, this progression's dumb. Like, why? This has no purpose. And I've found that's happened when I haven't practiced the drills that I want to do or the progressions I want to do.
So basically the first morning class of the day is usually the worst. And then the afternoon class is like spot on.
Yeah. That's always, isn't it always the case? It's like the guinea pig rule. Like, yeah.
So be aware, 5 a.m. classes out there. You're not getting the best.
I will say though, that when I started doing the lesson plans, when I was working for you guys, it was a game changer for me as somebody running the class, and you're putting more time into that plan ahead of time. So then it's not just like when I first got into coaching, I was in a place that probably didn't put as much emphasis on good coaching as it should have. And it's like, you just kind of walk in and you do your thing. And obviously that's going to have a certain result. And when I started working for you guys, it was very clear that this approach was the right way to go. And when I left, I started helping develop some other coaches at a gym up here. And that lesson plan was a tough pill to get them to swallow until they finally like actually gave it a real like fine, I'll fucking try it. And they did. And they're like, holy crap, this is really valuable. But it was, they didn't want to do the extra work beforehand and kind of tediously write everything out. But there's so much value there, at least I can say from my experience with it.
Yeah, and there's a few things in there, Jordan. One is the lesson plan holds you accountable. I mean, anybody that has any kind of whereabouts as being a CrossFit coach can show up to a class and do the thing. Anyone. Sorry, my dog's trying to be protective of the house. But there's no way for you to then go back and pivot. So let's say you don't have a lesson plan and you don't really know when you're going to start. And you don't really know how long you want to take. You have a rough idea. But if you have an objective metric that's like, wow, I really plan to move on to the total bar around the 20th minute, and I did it at 27 minutes, then in terms of self-assessment, you can go back and be like, what happened? And again, this is a way of trainers taking accountability for their own development. Is you don't always get the owner or whoever watching your classes. I mean, it'd be great if that could happen, but it's not realistic. So how are you going to help yourself be better? So the accountability actually, it raises the bar. It raises the bar for what you're doing and why you're doing it. And it's the pre-work is, there's a whole business piece around that too. The pre-work, it's like, are they getting paid to write lesson plans before? Or are they only getting paid for the hour? And this is this new place we're in. It's like, yeah, well, you should want to write a lesson plan. I get it, but you got these folks that part-time coaches, they have other jobs, they have families, they've got busy lives. And so what's realistic? So I think there's ways to introduce it to people to a level that will be manageable and enjoyable. And the expectation shouldn't be that of someone who is a full-time coach and that's what they do to make a living. It's just, that's how you lose people.
Mm-hmm. I would highly recommend everyone going to check out at DT Lesson Plan just to get a visual of what we're talking about here. It's just so well constructed, and it looks like, like you're writing physics equations here, where, if you got to really know what to look for with regards to what a daily plan might look like. Is this what's written on the board for the everyday, client coming in, and by now do they understand, or just more for you to understand the structure?
No, it's just for me, and it's funny. You speak to the layout, and I did have one here, but I just moved some things around. That's for me, so that I have that. But that what you see is not what I would bring out to the floor, because sometimes it's not a memory game. I don't think there's anything wrong with a coach coming out with their lesson plan and popping it on the wherever their station is, and then just having a quick look. That's everything that I want to do, but the plan I actually bring out is very simple. It's just a line, time when I need to move on, defocus if I need it. And in terms of the class, the only thing that's on the board is the workout. But because I'm a nerd, and when the members do things that mess with my timeline, I have to give them, guys, you realize that a lot goes into these classes. And one time I actually got them in front of the whiteboard, and I'm like, I'm just gonna let you know what's going on here. 0 to 5 intro. This is what we're doing right now. We're in it. Now what we're gonna do from here to here, we're gonna do a general warm-up. So Henry, if you take your time, going to the bathroom, getting your wrist wraps, you're messing with my timeline. That's why I rush you guys. And hey, we're only gonna spend 10 minutes here. That's why when I say go grab your bands quickly, I mean quickly, just as a fun thing to show them. And a lot of them, they don't know that you actually plan for classes, and it actually, you bring in the members along with you. You're sharing your journey with them, and I think they really appreciate it. So, but I don't put that whole thing on the whiteboard. No, that would be overwhelming.
Gotcha. Well, we're getting close to the end, but I do have a couple additional questions just with regards to just CrossFit in general, and kind of where we are, the state of the sport, and there's been a lot of changes over the last couple of years, and we're at a place right now that I think, there's some really encouraging thing happening and some other things that I think we can probably make better. And from your perspective, someone that's been so involved with the sport in so many ways for over a decade, what are you encouraged about with what you're seeing within the CrossFit community now and into the near future? And then what are some things that you really hope to see better? And what are you hoping to see some emphasis put into an area that maybe needs it?
Um, so the first question is what am I encouraged by?
Yeah.
I'm encouraged by where we are as a company and the structures that have been put into place to really support the community and the affiliates, and specifically the CrossFit coach. So the education department is working really hard to ensure that we have resources and tools and kits to support the CrossFit coach via the professional coach, which is a monthly publication that goes out to anybody that has the CrossFit Level 1. And in there's articles and videos similar to the old CrossFit Journal, but more professionalized, I think, now. And for gym, the affiliates, there's a whole team there working really hard to support the affiliate needs. We have these district summits that are going on twice a year. They will go to a district. So as an example, District 12, which is my district, which is overseen by Larry Thomas. He's an affiliate owner at CrossFit Accolade and Commonwealth CrossFit. He puts on an event. It's a one-day thing where all the licensees on record attend. It caps at 50, so all the owners show up. And we do a state of CrossFit. So we talk about all things CrossFit from the gym vertical. The EDU department comes, so they'll do building a world-class staff. They might bring in some other organizations like Best Hour of the Day, or JP from Brick came on and they do some business lectures and groups. There's affiliate roundtables that was created by David Osorio from CrossFit South Brooklyn, which is small little groups and little, aha moments, come to Jesus moments. There's crying, there's sharing of struggles and triumphs. And it's an opportunity for affiliate owners who've been put through the ringer probably these last few years for sure, can come together and feel good about what they're doing and get their questions answered. So those things are just priceless. Obviously, we've got the sports side where the open now is a little bit even more accessible than before. We have 3 workouts. Most people can do all the workouts. They've condensed it down to 3, so we have full participation. People are more encouraged to join the open, which is a nice gateway to just doing CrossFit. So that all these structures that are being put in is really encouraging to me, because it means that we're on an upward trajectory to expose more people to CrossFit, which is the goal. But I'm obviously the most passionate about the coach and the resources that they're getting right now. So I think that was what's most encouraging. And then what was your second question?
An area that you think can put a little more emphasis into, something that can be done better.
Well, it can all be done better. We're constantly trying to improve things. I think as a CrossFit coach, I think we can supply more resources. I think we're doing a lot more than we've ever done virtually, but it would be really cool to provide more on-site help to those coaches that want it. And yeah, I think that would be, and it's hard because the scalability is challenging. But we have red shirts, CrossFit seminar staff members all over the world. So if we could just deploy them and have them go to gyms and evaluate a class. I mean, there's things that we can do going forward, but I think we can do everything a lot better. And that's what is happening. But I'd have to think about that a little bit more, because there's a lot. I think we got to keep listening to the community, to the affiliates, because they're the ones doing the thing, right? They're the ones on the warpath.
Absolutely. And, Austin seems to be at the front line of affiliate relations these days, and bringing Castro back to work with them as well. It seems like you guys are definitely putting some emphasis in that area. Well, Denise, before we get you out of here, would you be open to some quick fire questions that we ask everyone?
Oh, yeah.
All right. First one, Jordan is in place of our normal weightlifting crew. So we'll see what kind of response you get out of this one. But coming from a soccer background, hopefully it's completely, we don't have anything baseline here. But what sport or discipline you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Gymnastics.
Ooh, yes, easy, quick, nice and easy.
This is
Was
my
was that not favorable?
question.
No, it's fantastic. That's
Sorry,
exactly
Chad. I love weightlifting, but I had to choose.
Perfect. Next, any guests that you think we should have on the podcast that would be great to have a conversation with? Anyone you've come across recently, or someone that you think would be good for us to interview?
Dave Castro.
We have him coming up in a week or so. We've been chatting back and forth. He was going to be on this week, but there was some other stuff going on that he had to push it back another week. So
I can't wait to get Dave on.
Yeah.
Actually, have you ever spoke to Gary Gaines?
No.
Gary is the director of the gym. So he's Austin's boss, and he's phenomenal. And he's loves CrossFit. Has a background from like Tesla and Soul Cycle, and and now he's leading the gym. He's great. I think you'd get a lot of perspective from him.
Amazing.
That sounds like a good one. Yeah, took a note.
Next question. Any book that you've come across recently that has been worth picking up again, or that we can pass along? If not, maybe a TV show or a movie that you've seen.
Oh, I have all of those things, and I have many, but So Into Thin Air by John Krakauer. It's a book about the 1996 Mount Everest disaster. I'm obsessed with Mount Everest now because of it. And I don't know anything about mountain climbing. I don't want to climb Mount Everest, but I am obsessed with it. I've seen every YouTube documentary and Netflix show on it. And it was just a very interesting story. And it's really well written. And so that was something that I like, because I'm not familiar with any of it. So it was something very different to what I'm used to.
I'm gonna put that one on the agenda. I haven't heard that one yet, so I'm gonna check it out.
And he also has other books too, like Where Men Win Glory. It's about Pat Tillman. He was an NFL football player. You know the story. And after 9/11, he went to serve. And so I'm on this John Krakauer kick right now. Yeah.
I love it. TV show? You sounded like you're a TV watcher as well.
Yes. Well, obviously the Stranger Things is I mean, everyone's watching Stranger Things. What did we just watch recently? Oh my gosh, it's escaping me. Gone. I watch a lot of Netflix.
Either that,
I'm
or
not one of those people.
Either that, or you were embarrassed by it and didn't want to tell everybody what it was.
No, I'm not. But I am watching All American, which is a bit embarrassing.
I've heard good things about that.
High school kids.
Football players, right?
It is. And
is it a documentary?
Cheesy. No, but it's based on inspired by true events. It's really cheesy.
Did you ever watch the Friday Night Lights series, Denise?
Oh yeah.
That's a great show.
One of the best shows ever. And talk about a great coach. I mean, Coach Taylor, I mean, he has so many like words of wisdom to live by.
I loved it. I also, Bloodline was really good. I'm not one of those people that's like, I don't have time for Netflix. I always have time for Netflix. I love Netflix. It's a problem. So I'll watch. And if I see something and it catches my attention, I'll watch the whole thing, the whole series. It could be rubbish, but yeah, I'm into that.
All right, we got to add another one. I haven't actually finished this season of Stranger Things yet, but I started before we went to Europe, and I liked it. I was a little, season 3 was but I really like season 4 so far.
Well, that's the thing. Good. Like season 3 was kind of, like you said, I haven't even started watching season 4 yet. And part of me is like, what's wrong with these parents? They haven't moved out of the town yet. Like, why are they still there?
They moved.
But everybody said it's a really good season, so I'll probably give it a go.
It's so good. Yeah. And they do that whole thing where they do the episodes and then they have like a break and then they finish with 2 more episodes. Which is probably saved Netflix in some ways, but that last episode before the last 2, it's like, you're like, all
right.
What? Yeah, it's good.
Check it out. I gotta go check it out.
Yeah.
Well, Denise, anything you have coming up that you want our listeners to know about? Where can they find you? What do you have coming up next?
Next, I'm going to be at the CrossFit Games. I'm going to be assisting Todd Widman for the teams and for the judging team. So that's nothing. Hopefully, if I'm doing my job well, you won't see me because nobody wants that kind of publicity, right? We've seen that. No, thank you. And then nothing else, just some CDP stuff. But if you want to get hold of me, you can find me on my own Instagram, DenThomas7, or the CDP Instagram, or my email, denise.thomas@crossfittraining.com. And I mean this when I say this, if any coaches out there want to get on the phone and chit chat about coaching, best practices, and I say this all the time and not many people take me up on it, hit me, because I'll call you and we'll chat, and you will have to tell me that you have to go because I'll just keep talking. So I think what we do is really important, and I want to give back and inspire people to want to do what we do because I think it's the best damn job in the world, and why would we not want to share that?
Love it. Thank you so much, Denise, for your time and your passion for what you do and the commitment to the community. Really appreciate the time today. And for all the listeners out there, be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for our services and upcoming events. Check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Jordan Samuel Photo, and at Dave Durante. On behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Jordan Samuel. And until next time, thank you all for listening.